Alright guys, I've been hard at work on this thing. Now it's finally done. I can show you exactly what kind of a pain in the butt this was to do. Sorry this video took so long to get out. I Let's fucking do this! Fell asleep earlier. Alright, for anyone not familiar with what this project is, let me just, run down exactly what I'm holding here. So this is an AEM gauge, fuel ratio gauge. It's the most basic one they have. Usually it looks something like that, right? It comes with this plastic ring and it's got the interchangeable face and all that, whatever. But here was the problem. The Mustang, we're running the old school gauges in it, right? This right here. And frankly, this was not going to look good in the car. I mean, I want everything to kind of match, right? So we needed to make that gauge look old school. And here's how I did it. So what I did was I sacrificed this gauge. This is it's an ammeter. These things are cheap. I paid like 28 bucks for 3 gauges. This, the oil pressure, and the water temperature. I used the other two. I didn't really. I this had no use for me, really. So I sacrificed it. I cut the back off of the gauge cup, or well, the gauge, itself. Cut the back off, and that is what this face is. Let me disassemble this so you can kind of have a better understanding of what you're looking at. All right, here we go. So this rim is that ammeter gauge. This guy right here, right? So I cut the back off. Well, then I needed to cut a little more off, right? I cut it just right about here, okay? Sawzalled it right off, right? Then I had to take the actual AM gauge, AEM gauge, and I had to cut off the threaded part, because there's a threaded part that this threads onto. Well, it was too thick, too wide. It would not fit. This would not fit over it. So I had to file that off. I had to cut it off, grind it off. Then the tricky bit, that face, the faces are interchangeable, but the face does not fit inside of here. And I did not want to risk actually, damaging that face. So the face is actually sandwiched in between this and this. And then I electrical taped it all together. So now I have an old school air fuel ratio gauge. Check that out. And it all slides right into this gauge cup, just a standard 2 to 16th inch gauge cup. And now I have my old school air fuel ratio gauge. And if I want to, I can always take the tape off and I can switch the air fuel to lambda. It has lambda on the other side. So, if I want to run ethanol in the future or something like that, I can always switch it to lambda to make understanding things a lot easier. That's pretty much all there was to it. It was a pain in the butt to try to figure out and actually grind it all, but actually it came together quite, it's just taped together, right? I mean, there it is. So, I had a problem and I fixed it. That's pretty much the moral of the story. So, do what you do. Do what you have to do to make your hot rod the way you want it. They don't make something, make it yourself. All right. Well, that's all there is to it. So I mean, I don't know how much longer I could drag the video on. I mean, that's literally all I did. I cut the gauge ring off. I cut this part, the front of that off. I basically cut the back of that off, the front of that off, and I sandwiched that in between and taped it up. Yeah, there it is. Okay, catch you next time.